All right, with a couple of offensive linemen from the 90s, Tony Engebretson, Paul Kane. Guys, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your offensive line coach, Rich Bird. How influential was he on you as a football player, Tony, but also as a person?
Yeah, I think as a football player, he needed to really work with me because I wasn't the biggest, strongest lineman out there. I think I probably weighed 165 pounds, but the program read that I was 175 pounds. And
wait, they do that?
But I think in terms of just his attention to detail, teaching techniques, and doing it all in a positive way had a big impact in just how I turned out as a football player, and teaching us the head part of the game, the intelligence part, and what you can do to make yourself a better player. Even if you don't have the biggest size and strength and speed out there, you can still outsmart your opponent. And but off the field, he was just such a great person and great leader to our football team and to the community that the football team touched. And he was obviously super involved with still fundraising it long after I had left the program, and it was so good to keep in touch with him at all the fundraisers each year and to see how much he still loved and gave back to the program.
Paul, why do so many former players talk about Coach Bird in such a positive light, both as a person and a football coach? His name just comes up over and over. He was never a head coach, obviously, at Jefferson, but just because he was never a head coach doesn't mean he couldn't make as big of an impact as he did.
Yeah, I'd say in many respects he was a head coach, but just in a different respect. He was more than a coach, really, to me. It wasn't really just about technique, although he was great at it, and the plays and kind of the football strategy, but he was kind of taught lessons in life. It was really about, teamwork, collaboration, whole linemen, bonded together for life, basically. You form those relationships and respect, integrity, hard work. But I think part of what set him apart is he kind of created a culture of, it's like a family. So it wasn't just my teammates or my peer or my coach. It was kind of like my brother, I guess. So that's really what I think helped us to be successful and really enjoy it at a different level. I've had coaches that yell at you to motivate you and are highly critical, and that was not his style, and that made it so much more fun for me and for a lot of people, I think.
For sure.
So, yeah, I think about how many years he taught and coached and how many people he touched. I mean, he had a profound impact on so many lives. And I know a lot of us really miss him.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people even that I know that weren't football players that were students of his here at Jefferson, and he made an impact not only for people that played football, but for everybody that took any one of his classes here at Jefferson.
Yeah, a lot of people better off for knowing him, that's for sure.
Yep.
His legacy will live on.
For sure. I wish I would have had a class with him, but I don't think I did. But and to go back to something that Paul said too, I think, some of the people that I still connect with today, there's people from across the program and teammates, but the teammates I was closest to were the other offensive line, and like Paul said, Coach Bird really helped facilitate that. He was our mentor and our leader back then, and made sure that we were a close-knit group. And some of my best memories of football isn't actually necessarily from the football games. It's all the other stuff that went with it, all the hard work that we put in together, the fun that we had outside of football, and so, Coach Bird was such a key integral part of that, us forming those relationships.
Do either one of you maybe have some examples of something that Coach Bird did, maybe during a practice or off the field, that maybe it's a situation that you still remember and maybe draw back on even 30 years later?
I don't know. I mean, he was oftentimes like the head coach on the sidelines. So my memories of him is cheering us on, kind of being positive and coaching us to be performing at a better level, I guess, but not critiquing us necessarily. And I think that leadership characteristic of motivating through enthusiasm Celebrating your success is something that, it kind of was a systemic through his entire coaching career, but I think that's something that I took away and kind of have embraced in my own career in life, essentially. Because I know there are other people that don't have that philosophy, and it's not quite the same. But yeah, I can't think of necessarily a specific incident, though, because it was more systemic throughout my entire journey with them, I guess.
Yeah, one thing that I recall is being very, that left an impression on me is just his ability to, the way he communicated with us. He was, he didn't have the intensity that we've seen from other coaching staff members, but he had a way of connecting with us, and he realized that sometimes, demoing what we should be doing, over communicating it. He applied different approaches in his communication styles that really got through to us, and I think was effective.
Do you think he was maybe ahead of his time in a more collaborative approach or an enthusiastic approach for being a coach than maybe coaches were, especially back 30 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't, there probably are some coaches these days that could learn that lesson that still follow that philosophy. I mean, it'll work with some players, but most, I think, it shuts them down and it kind of makes them hate the game they end leaving. So.
Yeah, and I'd say, that's probably true for the entire coaching staff when I was there.
Yeah.
I guess there was maybe one coach I remember that was a little bit more intense when he came through, and but otherwise, most of the coaching staff was lead by example, be positive. It was all about positive thoughts and good things will happen, and just being supportive of each other.
What are some of the memories, Paul, being around the team, whether it's on the field on those Friday nights or off the field, that maybe are more vivid even all these years later?
Yeah, I guess my junior year in 1994 is a team that kind of will ever stand out in my memory. We were a good team, but really what made us stand out was the confidence in our ability to win and our confidence in each other. It kind of started early on. I think it was Brent Grimes that had the motto or slogan of "You Got to Believe," which was from a Lenny Kravitz song that had just come out that year, but we really adopted it as our own. And that led us to a lot of success. One of the games that's the highlight of my career, at least, was when we were playing Eden Prairie in the playoffs. And we were at EP, and it was November. It was a cool fall night, and it was just perfect, atmosphere of football. High stakes, electric environment. The crowd was totally into it. There was a back and forth close game. Went into the fourth quarter. There was like a minute left, and we were tied 28-28. And CG decided to do a flea flicker. So Hopper dropped back, threw it. I don't know. It was probably 40 yards to, I think, Sinclair, who brought us down to the 6. Unfortunately, we weren't able to convert, so we went into overtime. And I think it was after a few tries, another tricky play was called where Hopper went into motion and Brent Grimes went under center, picked up the ball and went through the pass to put us ahead 34-28, kicked the field goal. EP comes on and they scored, but then they missed it wide left. So crowd empties out of the stadium. We're hog piling on each other. It was, just an amazing experience and something that I'll remember forever. So.
How was an offensive line that maybe was undersized able to hold up against a bigger Eden Prairie defensive line and everything that they threw at you?
Yeah, and that goes back to Birdie too. It's all about technique. Similarly, a little undersized for a guard too, a little smaller back in those days. But but Birdie,
I wish I had this size.
Yeah, the low man always wins. Was basically the right football position, getting the right technique, and that's something again that he taught us. And we also put in a schematic that they came up with that was kind of more of a combo block scenario, which also helped us to be very successful.
Any memorable games that stand out for you, Tony?
It's
hard to top that 94 section final game for sure.
No, it's funny because the way I often improve is by maybe dwelling a little bit too much on my failures, and so a lot of some of the things that I wish would have gone differently are the things that really stick with me still. But I think that's often was a motivator for me to improve myself and try to help the teammates. But yeah, no one single play really stands out. Some of the experiences that I remember though that were a lot of fun to think back on, or I remember my very first memory of youth football was at Dred Scott playing BAA, and it was the year that Chris Dolman got drafted, and he must have lived in the area, and he walked over to one of our practices, and we didn't really know who he was, but we knew he was a Vikings player and a big deal, and then he got introduced, and we recognized his name from the draft, and thought that was really neat that he'd take the time to walk over and come talk to our team at a practice. And experiences like that, or Tommy Kramer working out with us at captain's practice and throwing balls to our receivers and yelling at them for not catching the ball or not catching up to his ball. So just a lot of fun memories like that.
When you started BAA, did you ever dream of one day putting on that Columbia blue jersey and running out there on Bloomington Stadium? And when you got to live that, how did that feel?
Yeah, I don't think I had any dreams of that when I was that young. I was just probably playing sports, to keep busy and stay out of trouble. But as I got older and started going to games at Lincoln and watching the teams play, it was something that I aspired to do. I always wanted to be on the field and under the bright lights, and it was really satisfying to achieve that goal that I had in high school.